What's
That's
your
a face.
What's the Twitch handle for you all? Sorry.
Twitch Guardians MH.
Ah,
How about now?
hey, there
Now we
you
can
are.
hear you.
Oh. Yes, no, I have the subscription, so I just make characters on whenever I feel like it. Like when I got the random inspiration to make Maui as a character.
Ooh. I my thing that I'm working on next is why stop it. Mute.
Echo.
Twitch, mute. I want to work on a bard college that is a psychology class. Because I've been trying to make a
Yes.
cleric, but I figured it out the other day. We're not psychologists are not clerics, we're bards.
Oh,
We collect stories.
oh God, a
Yes.
chaotic, evil college of. Oh God, that would be so
Well,
terrible.
I'm thinking because
That would be bad.
the College of the Story Collector.
Ooh.
And the idea is those who have
Oh my
stories that are
God.
too much for them to take, this bard sits in as witness to that story and holds that story for that person.
Oh, that's
my
awesome.
my face is lighting up because that's what a therapist does.
That's
We
what a
hold
therapist
on.
does.
We
Yeah.
hold on to it. Oh my God. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want it.
Like,
I want to do it.
yeah, I can't.
Amazing.
I want to do that.
Yeah. No. That's 100%. That's got to be done.
Where are we? Oh, there we
Come up
are.
with like
Hey,
a
we're
homebrew
live.
spell of like call it like face your fears or something, and you causes massive psychic damage to anyone with like guilt or something.
You're going right to like the chaotic
You're
evil.
going to
Like,
all the
how do I make
damage
this?
stuff.
I'm
Yes.
thinking, I'm thinking, how could this bard damage someone who was trying to attack
Well,
their party members?
See, I see it more as like not damage, but protect. Right?
Yes.
So like the
Yes.
wall, like you could reflavor a lot of the spells to be like the wall of words. To
I love that.
Oh my God. Yes, please. Yes,
Nope,
please.
you got me opening it now. D&D
Oh.
Beyond.
Are we gonna do the how many characters do you have? See, oh, do you have party mode activated on D&D Beyond?
Not all the time. No, just whenever I click on it and go, oh yeah, that's still a thing.
It's a thing. We found it the other day while we were playing Curse of Strahd, and I've had it on since then because.
Oh, I have it on all the time. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Party
It's my
mode,
favorite thing.
Yeah, we just randomly found the wizard, and we're like, "What? What is party mode?" Yes.
So I'm actually playing a bard in the D&D trainings.
Oh, nice.
I'm doing a bard, but completely off script. I'm basing the character. Have you watched Breaking Bad?
A little bit, not.
Okay.
I started
So-
watching it right around the time my kids started figuring out how to walk into rooms during shows they shouldn't.
Gotcha. And Breaking Bad is definitely one of those.
There's one of those.
Yep. Yeah.
But I'm basing the character off of one of like the corrupt lawyers, Saul Goodman.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God.
So I am just a fast, smooth talking, overly charismatic bard who.
Oh my God.
It's amazing because
Nice.
I'm watching the prequel. I'm watching Better Call
Better
Saul.
Call Saul. Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm gonna take the charlatan background because
Yep.
that'll Saul Goodman or this character's name now. That'll just be. I'm going way too deep. I'm having
That
a lot
is
of
so
fun
much
with it.
fun. No, I love playing like all of different classes. I just checked. I have 187 characters on my D&D Beyond.
Nope. I think Alan lost.
Wow. Wow. Good God. I haven't had the inspiration to make any in a while, but good God.
That's my. I think I gotta do that next. I gotta start making characters.
Well, part of it is I do use my D&D Beyond as for making characters for all the therapy games. So they get made under my account, and then
Okay.
whether or not the person grabs it or not is up to them. So
Right,
that's part of
right.
it. So like under non-COVID-19 times, I'm making what 18 to 20 characters every 10 weeks.
And that's for work.
It's for work.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
It's so much fun. By the way, have you all seen the story engine thing? If you let me during this interview, by the way, I will talk about way too many Kickstarters because I have a problem.
Did we just become best friends?
Which I think I
We're
mentioned in
okay
a few of my videos. So
Story engine.
The
No.
story engine.
this is so cool. This is one of their expansion packs. This is what is this one? This is the Devastation Booster, but it's a way to build a story through you get cards.
That's not the
And
right link.
it's you get a person, an action, a little foil. So like you have this would be like a protagonist wants to find the coordinates of an unbreakable set of riot gear. But let's see, it will draw the attention of the government.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's just random little.
Oh my
story
god, that's
prompts.
a great one-shot maker too, right there.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I see it here. Yeah, deck of endless storytelling prompts. Oh, that's so cool.
It's really cool.
I need that in my life.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I will
Hi,
probably plug Gemhammer and Son stuff because I love their decks.
Whoa, why is there so many links? I actually I signed up for what was it? Tales of Zadia. I don't know if you guys
Ooh.
are Dragon Prince fans, but somebody created a tabletop RPG based in the Dragon Prince universe.
Oh, cool. I was in a weird mood when I started watching Dragon Prince, and as soon as they got to the humans corrupted everything, I'm like, I'm out right now. I didn't make it through the prologue. I'm like, no, I can't have people ruining everything again. Like I know that's gonna be the trope. It's okay. That's the trope, but I just like I need
So
Hi, Dr.
cool.
Megan.
I don't.
Or they're saying hi to me. It's Tim J. Hi, Tim.
Which
Who's doing the what? Are you who's doing the welcome? Are you doing the welcome, Joe? Joe's gonna do the welcome.
I'm doing the welcome now.
I don't
No.
have it.
Okay, thank God. I'm only good at plugs. I can't do anything else.
I could do the welcome if you give me a minute to pull it up. But yeah, you have more screens.
Don't ask me to sign out. That's what I'm so bad at that. Our community manager's writing me a script. She's amazing.
Yeah, it's just one of those things I'm not good at.
Yeah, she's just like, I'm gonna write a script for you all. I'm like, you could just say it. I'm really bad at doing sign out. She's like, you really are. It's okay. I can accept my weaknesses. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't care.
Hi.
Oh, I used to say both ends, so Connell, but it's okay.
Connell.
Yes. Ah, I'm super excited to be here and talking to you all. So this is great.
I mean, I'm just super excited to talk D&D. Like, let's just be
Yeah.
honest here.
Oh, Chad is saying unmute Joe. Joe.
Hashtag unmute Joe. That's that. We got the title of the episode.
You know what? The great thing is, nobody else heard me butcher the disclaimer, so it was only you guys. Lucky you.
Wow. And I gotta say, 10 is really making fun of you right now by calling you an old man.
Well, you know, I do have a lot of gray. No, but
Okay.
for the people
We
that
can hear
might
Joe
not
now.
know who you are, Doc, could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. So I'm Dr. Megan Connell. I'm a board certified psychologist in private practice. I physically work out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but I am virtually practicing in North Carolina, Virginia, Washington. I have an emergency license in New Hampshire right now. And I'm hopefully going to be licensed with the PsyPact soon once I can figure out some stuff with that, which will let me practice virtually in a bunch of other states too. I am a certified geek therapist. I'm the one of the creators of the therapeutic GM training through Leyline Geek Therapeutics. I am the co-founder of Geeks Like Us, a community-based entertainment or media company, where I am the dungeon master for Clinical Role, a live play D&D game where all of my players are other psychologists and therapeutic dungeon masters. I have also run a YouTube series on there called Psychology at the Table that I'm hoping to get up and running again if I can find time to record and edit videos, where I talk about how game masters can be more accommodating at their tables for people who have struggles with anxiety and depression and things like that. I also am the host of a podcast called Brain Noodles, where myself and some other psychologists sit around and talk about the things that are noodling in our brains and our deep thoughts on really important matters that, impact this world, like office supplies. And our love of buying sticky
Office
notes.
supplies. I can relate with that.
Yeah, it's really, we talk really deep stuff. No, we do talk about deep stuff too, but some of my most favorite episodes have been us talking about planners and how we buy planners and then don't use them, and what the psychology behind that is.
I'm not alone. Oh my God, that makes me
No.
feel so much better.
No, you're not alone. You're not alone. I actually
Oh.
have a planner now that I love because it has reusable pages. You can erase the pages with water and then start again. So you don't
That's
feel like you're
fantastic.
Oh
wasting it.
man.
So I know we're getting sidetracked, and that's always what
I will get us
I
so
do.
sidetracked.
You're in good company then, because
Yes.
we live to sidetrack.
I saw this like keyboard-sized whiteboard that you can put in front of your keyboard that you could use as sticky notes and just erase as needed. It was like
that's nice.
$50, and I think I'm gonna pull the trigger, and I think I'm just gonna
What?
get it. Yeah, because that's all I do. My whole life is I take a sticky note, write it, and just put it on my keyboard.
Well, what
Oh my
about the
gosh.
notepad that you can scan into your phone? You haven't seen that?
Yeah, that's what this planner is.
Yeah.
Rocketbook.
Yep. It has a
That's-
little QR code on the
Yep.
on the corner.
I just bought a stream deck. I can't. I need a sticky note. Hold on.
Yeah.
I
Well, and then I
apologize, Dr. Cannell.
No, the fun's fine. And then the last thing I do is I'm a therapeutic dungeon master. I run therapeutic and social skills based games where I use D&D as a therapeutic tool or as a skill building tool to help different kiddos. My groups are all for women and girls. Been trying for a number of years to get a veterans group up and running, but that there's just logistical challenges. It's much easier to schedule games for people who are in school than people who are out of school and doing adult things. As anybody who runs D&D games knows, the
Yep.
real big bad evil guy of any campaign is the schedule.
It's the schedule.
Alan's one of the game masters for another nonprofit, Betty's Bombers. So he does a lot of dungeon D&D games with veterans over there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, we haven't actually started yet because of
Scheduling.
See, it's such a big problem.
It's the worst.
It's really, really hard, and that's one of the big issues in running into. Yeah, because I am also. I guess I should also mention, I'm a veteran. I served 7 years active duty.
Chewy, thank you so much for the 11-month sub, bud.
In the reserves, psychologist in the army, deployed to Iraq. So I got to do all that fun stuff.
Feel free to enjoy that birthday.
I've done a few things in my life.
Appreciate you and me being
so
here.
when you say
Hope
finding the time to edit YouTube videos, I don't see how you have time to like eat. Like what happens?
I also have kids, so who have been doing at home learning for the bulk of this year. They just returned to school 4 days a week though. So
ours starts April 16th.
Nice.
Going back full in school.
How did upstate New York go later than NYC?
We've been a hot zone forever. Like my area, our county essentially has been in like the yellow since the beginning, and it was red right along with New York, and ours goes back April 16th. So
nice.
Go figure.
Yeah, New York City went back earlier, which is interesting. Anyway.
What, are you saying you're better than us in upstate? Is that what you're saying? Our air is cleaner.
No. I have no children, but I don't. But all of my clients are adolescents and children, and it's not all of them are okay with it. Let's put it that way.
It's a hard adjustment. It really is.
Yes.
And my daughter, my 12-year-old, she's not looking forward to it. The kids that are doing full remote learning can continue that for the rest of the year if they choose. Mm-hmm. She is a hybrid, so she does go every other day. But going full class, in school you can already see the anxiety that it's kind of giving her, and she's adjusted to this hybrid learning so much that she's really not looking forward to it. So I really feel bad for all the kids that
I think we're going to see a really big spike in social anxiety type problems this fall when schools hopefully everything goes well and we're able to open schools. But I think there's going to be some challenges this fall.
Yeah, I last week I volunteer for Crisis Text Line as well as one of their crisis counselors, and 16 of the texters that I talked to were all about that topic right there. All very anxious about returning to full school, a lot of social anxiety, and you can already see it hitting. So, it's going to be a thing.
It's been the theme of my sessions honestly for the past month, because it's been the lead-in to, I think we sort of knew by like the beginning of March that we were going back in. This week, actually, we started. So a lot of my sessions, it's been just that lead in, how to really now adjust again. We adjusted so fully to a life of, staying indoors, doing everything virtual, doing Zoom just for social interactions. And now you're being thrown right back in to a situation that you wanted. Initially, I think a lot of people were hungry for that social interaction, but now it's, wait, can I manage that social interaction again? Yeah. How do I manage it? What do I do? How do I go back into what the hell does the lunch table look like? That's been a question for weeks now. And it's definitely showing. I think you're right. I think come fall, once the new semester, the new school year starts, there's going to be a lot of it, unfortunately.
It really is. To
Mm.
everybody out there who's a mental health provider and helping kiddos out, and to all the teachers especially, oh my God, thank you. And
Mhm.
it's just it's been
Mm-hmm.
hard, and it's going to be hard. And that's why, like,
Very much so.
we do this stuff and we try to help and provide more information and do all of these things.
Yeah, and you know what too? This sort of brings us, I mean, directly into exactly
Yeah.
what we were, what we're looking to talk about, and you touched upon it briefly, Dr. Cannell. But you run currently these D&D therapeutic groups.
Hmm.
If I can just sort of ask, what
Yeah.
topics do you tend to, or how do you meld, and this is something that I'm actually learning being a part of that D&D
Yes.
training through Leyline and Geek Therapeutics, so I'll be learning this anyway. But for everybody else, please tell, like, how do you intertwine sort of like the therapeutic process and the therapeutic skills into game of D&D? How do you sorcery, like, how do you become a sorcerer
Yeah,
and
it
use that?
is. It's a lot. Dr. Bookamazzaro and myself, we developed a 6-hour training that was sort of our first training, continuing ed training on the applied use of role playing games. And one of the things we postulate in that training is that it's this trifecta of you have to be a really experienced therapist, you have to have a willingness to play, and essentially to play and be vulnerable, right? And then you have to have a mastery of the gaming system that you're using. So when I talk about therapeutic tabletop role-playing games, I'm typically talking about Dungeons and Dragons. As you can see behind me, I have a very big bookcase full of D&D books, and I do have a bookcase over here filled with other systems. I'm not poo-pooing any of these systems. They're all phenomenal systems. I just don't know them very well. And
Hmm.
so I know D&D and I know the rules off the top of my head, and I don't have to think about how to run this game. I would have to think about how to run these games, so I don't use these games. And so
Mhm.
that's really the biggest thing, is that we want to be not thinking about the rules of the game that we're playing so that we can utilize it as a tool. Um, my in, Before I became a psychologist, I was thinking I was going to become a music therapist, and so I actually went to Berklee College of Music, which is a big time jazz school on the East
Mm-hmm.
Coast.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Phenomenal school, loved it, great education. But one of the big things that I found so surprising was, in order to learn jazz improv, we had to become experts in music theory. And you had really, they were basically, the teachers would be like, don't really try to do too much with jazz soloing until you've gotten through music theory 4, which is through your first 2 full years of college. And it's because what it is in jazz, you break rules with a purpose. Oftentimes in jazz, you are not doing what the ear expects. You are breaking the rules of harmony. Like, you're doing all kinds of things, but you understand that that's what you're doing and you know why you're doing it that way.
Hmm.
Because if you're just kind of messing around and throwing notes in there that don't really make sense, it's not a very well thought out solo. And so when you're playing, you want to understand how to bend and to break the rules with purpose. But in order to do that, you need to know the rules really, really, really well. And so that's something that's really important with all of this. And so that's a big part of how we utilize D&D or any tabletop role playing game. It's, you have to know those rules. You got to be willing to play, because if you're asking the people that you're going to be with to play and to make themselves vulnerable and you're not willing to do that, it's not going to work. And then you have to have this expertise that we have in being a mental health professional, of having the training of things to look out for, how to steer conversations, what to do, and all of that. When you get those things blended together, that's where you can really have that moment of therapy in play and to utilize those skills very well.
Yeah.
I am so excited to be able to do that one day. You know, a part of the reason why I wanted to take this course was to do exactly that. Right? I have I at least think I am very confident in my therapeutic skills. I have run groups for almost my whole career, actually, working in substance abuse. For those who know, substance abuse and group therapy go hand in hand.
Yep.
So doing that, but it was, I think, the mastery in D&D that I am grateful I'm sort of getting from this course now. I can play, I can be a DM. I can run one shots, but I don't think I have the mastery level of it yet. And obviously, it goes beyond the training too. There's going to be a lot of work I have to do on my end, but I am just super excited that I have this jumping off pad, so to speak, to be able to do this.
Yeah, this a big time plug for the training that we developed with Leyland Geek Therapeutics, because
Yes.
it it was one of those things when I was making it, there was a lot of different, like, okay, this is stressful, but then when it all came together at the end, I'm looking at this going, good God, I wish I had this when I started my groups, because I didn't know what I
Yeah.
was doing. It was a humongous risk, and like, I did the ethics training for this, and one of my favorite book series for psychologists out there is called Ethics in Plain English. It just breaks down the ethics code, and one of the points in the ethics is like, when you're, please do cutting edge interventions and research, but understand that sword cuts both ways. And so there's risk with when you are trying something new. And so there was a lot of, risk with this, and a lot of stumbling and learning as I went. And so my hope is to be able to import, I feel the need to put air quotes around wisdom. Basically like learning from mistakes, and like going, okay, this is what I did that didn't work. Please don't do that. Do these things that work much better. And
Did
to
we
give
just
this
become
training
best
to, and
friends?
seeing
Yep.
so many people wanting to go through it. It's so amazing.
Yeah. And so many different people as well too.
Sigma Wing,
Different
thank you so much
professions.
for the
I'm a
follow.
social worker. I'm an
Welcome.
LMSW.
Join the
Hopefully
chat.
getting my C in May. I'm studying and praying. But so many different professions and so many different people. Like my cohort, I'm biased, but I love my cohort. They're amazing. But I'm biased because I haven't
Yeah.
really met any of the cohorts. But hey, and it's a vast amount of different people coming from different backgrounds, whether it's an expertise in tabletop RPGs with a background in mental health, or the other way around, someone who's just mental health professional who literally came in and said, you know what, my clients have been talking about this, I need to educate myself on this. And to me that was amazing when I heard that, because I don't know if I in the past would have done that, but
Yeah.
now, like, it's now that this is available, so to speak, like, absolutely, I would dive in. And I'm also getting credit for a class when playing D&D at the same time. Like, I
Yeah.
can't go wrong.
That's a bonus.
It's a
Yeah,
bonus.
right. You get credit for playing D&D and doing all this stuff. Yeah, like the training is absolutely wonderful. Like we've got over, I think it's around 18 hours or over 18 hours of instruction that you do. And then every week, as you're going through with your cohort, you're playing too. You play for 2 hours a week with a professional DM, and you get that chance of learning to take a risk with your cohort and getting to play with others, because like it when I was doing the lit review for the
Big change, huh, Nate?
first round of trainings for there's this one study that I found that talked about alibis in play and the challenges that adults have in playing. And I feel like that one for me has been like the biggest touchstone as to why this has been such a difficult sell. Is our culture believes that play is a thing of children, and adults who play cannot be taken seriously because they are a threat to what we understand as being a grown-up and being an adult. And so highly educated adults who play are even bigger threats, because they're supposed to be even more stuffy and serious, because not only are they adults, they're highly educated, up, intellectually as superior. And so this, not superior saying, sorry, by society standards, to be clear on
Right.
that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like,
no, absolutely.
but that idea of like, but you're a doctor and you play, you're a
Yeah.
board certified therapist who uses games, and you actually play with your clients. Like that's what is that? I had another professional reach out to me and asking about it, and I was recommending to go and get the training. And I got a response like, no, I don't actually plan on playing. Like, no,
Not gonna
no,
work.
it's not going to work. If like if you're not getting in there and doing the silly voices for the NPCs and taking that risk, like how are any of your clients going to take a risk around that
Right.
table?
Right. You have to model being able to sort of taking that risk.
Mhm.
another large portion I feel in therapy is modeling. So if you're
yeah.
being able to model that you're willing to dive into this adventure with them, obviously it's going to increase the therapeutic rapport. It's going to increase that alliance that somebody has. And I don't know, I love using humor in therapy as well too, when appropriate, of course. But you know, and being able to make funny voices and being able to do that, especially for a group of teenagers or even adults, like it sort of takes like the edge off of, oh my god, this is therapy, oh my god, I'm
Yes.
opening myself up and diving into all of my issues, to where, wait a minute, I can do this but also play a game at the same time.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, Matthew, what you're hitting on there, I think, are two really powerful things because anyone who's a therapist knows, like, one of the biggest problems that, like, you can sit down with a client, and usually, once you're pretty experienced, within a session or two, you kind of know, like, okay, this is the big thing this person needs to work on. And it's not a thing of like you can't be like, well, you have abandonment issues, and you just you need to learn to trust people, and then your life's going to be a lot better.
Yep.
It's like you say that, and it's like immediately you're hit with this defensive wall, right? Because like
Mhm.
our central issues are
Collective
behind
souls, thank you
layers
so
and
much for the
layers and
follow and
layers of
welcome.
defenses.
First time being in the stream. Thank you
And
for everything you do in our
what I
Discord
have seen
channel.
so far, and I'm sure there's
helping
other
us
things out there, but
throughout the
gaming
server,
and
providing peer
comedy
support for
are
everybody.
two
You're great.
ways to get underneath those defensive walls and get to that heart of that issue. Like
Mhm.
anybody who's ever heard me on a podcast before, like the question I get a lot is like, how did I get into this? And like for me, it was this aha moment where I was reflecting on two characters I had played in two different campaigns, because I was doing the psychologist thing of analyzing my characters, because why
Mhm.
not? That's what you do while you're cleaning your house, right? And when I recognized what they had in common, you know that like sinking feeling when you have that big realization of something important. I
Mhm.
had that, and I was like, oh my god, this is my central thing that I need to work on. And wow, that would have taken years to come out in therapy, and here it was in a few weeks of playing D&D characters that I got to this. And so that was something incredibly powerful to connect with. But then with comedy, it's like when we're laughing, it's like all of a sudden we're looking at this and be like, oh my god, I do that. But I got to give a shout out to one of my favorite stand-up comedians, Christopher Titus. He's
Yes, he's
I haven't
awesome.
heard his name
He's
mentioned in
amazing.
so long.
he's
It's
great.
amazing.
Well, but one of the things with him that I like is like you can tell, like any therapist listening to him can hear the therapy speak in his routines, because this guy's been through a lot. His life has not been easy.
Mhm.
And that, but how he's coped has been his comedy, and you can hear a lot of the stuff that he's worked through in his comedy come out. And you sit there and you listen to it and you're like, yeah, that's the, these are
Mhm.
this is something. And like you can be laughing and go, oh, I do that too. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I so one of the greatest breakthroughs that I've had for me was while playing Dungeons and Dragons. You know,
Yeah.
COVID just hit, and everybody, we went to remote playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll never forget, there was like this very frustrating moment for my character, and I went. My character just had a monologue where I'm just almost screaming into the microphone, and I'll never forget my DM. Actually, a good friend of ours. He supports a lot of what Guardians does. His name is Sai. He messaged me. He was like, "I'm just checking in. Everything okay?" And I was like, "No, I used your game to just work through everything right now. I am actually so much better. It is great." And but again, D&D allows you to embody a totally different character, but still work on things that are going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's again the power of tabletop RPGs, but I think just games in general
Yeah.
that they can have is amazing, especially role playing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, completely. Yeah. I actually did a talk on that at Gamehole Con, which one of my favorite
Mm,
conventions for when conventions can happen again safely.
I know.
It where it talked about like what we learn about ourselves through character creation. And I put this question to the audience, and I just loved watching everybody's expression in the audience, which was, imagine a party that's made up of nothing but your past characters. right?
Ooh.
That's a small party.
Right, but like as you start thinking about it, you're like, this
Oh.
is yeah. And it's like,
Oh.
yeah, there's your stuff, right? As soon
Yeah.
as you look at that and go, what, and you can start imagining the problems, it's like, hey, that's all yours. That's your stuff in these characters, and it's
It's out
coming up
there.
in them.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things, and I am just pulling up, I'm cheating because Tony sent us all the weeks for
Yeah.
what we're going to be learning. I'm
Well-
excited for a couple of things. Obviously how to use Roll20 better, given that it's
Mhm.
just one of the better websites that are out there, that and Foundry, but being able to utilize Roll20 successfully. The other thing, again, therapeutic encounters.
Yes.
That's sort of what I'm really looking forward to, like how to create. And is it encounter in the sense of the way that I'm thinking it, where it's like an actual like battle, that type of encounter,
It can
or
be a
is it
battle.
more like a role playing
Both.
encounter?
It completely
Okay.
both. Like, and it's been an interesting thing. I'm trying to remember where I have talked about. I think it was in the trainings that I did for Leyland where I discussed this. Like when early in my days of being a therapeutic dungeon master, I said my name's Dr. Megan, and I was an over planner as a GM. I made too many notes. I put my players on the railroad way too often, and it was not as much fun as it could have been. I have learned from my mistakes, though, and I have started to lean into the chaos and lean into things. And when I talk about therapeutic encounters, what I talk about is opportunities. Because in my early days of making lots of mistakes, don't do what I did, I would be like, okay, tonight we're going to talk about this thing. And we're going to do it in this way. And I think my players got a lot out of that stuff. I think they grew a lot, but I don't think it was as much fun as it could have been. I think it felt very shoehorned to them, because it was. Like, well,
Right up front, too.
Yeah.
Instead of working into it.
Exactly. And so what I do now when I'm making notes is like, what opportunity do I want to give my players tonight? What am I seeing that they need to work on? What are their I ask each of my players to create a emotional goal for their character at the start of the campaign. So we go through character creation, and I said, we're going to meet 10 times, play for 9 weeks. Over these 9 sessions, how do you want to see your character grow and develop? What do you want to see them change about themselves through this campaign? And then I try to give them opportunities to do that. And so like I put it out there, like if I have a character who's like, or a player who's like, my character tends to be controlling and they need to learn how to trust others. It's like, okay, cool. So maybe I'm going to give them an opportunity where their character has to be separated from the rest of the party and trust that the party's going to do what they
Collective
need to do.
Soul, thank you so much.
And I might
for the
even
cheers.
have that player sit
Awesome.
outside
Thank you for
while
the
rest of the
biddies.
party does something, and then swap them, right?
Mm.
But I'm not going to force it, right? It's going to say like, well, you could do it this way, but I always leave it open that there's other ways to solve it, and to see like, are they able to lean into that and not? And then we'll process that and say like, okay, so interesting. You say that you want your character to trust people, and like, look, here's this opportunity to trust, and they didn't take it. Why do you think they didn't feel ready to take it tonight? Right. And so instead of it being a blame thing, we're talking
Right.
about, and I'm going, what do you think that character needs to learn to trust these people more? And how can we reflect on that? And so those are the things I do. And like, it's been really interesting, because what I've seen is the more I go by improv and go by what comes up and give like these little opportunities, the better the therapeutic outcome has been. One of my favorite examples of this was one of my groups, they were trying to stop a cult of Vecna from bringing Vecna back to the prime material, and so they were trying to get the cult had the eye, and so the party was trying to get the hand and to get rid of the hand somehow, and decided to give a black dragon the hand of Vecna, because that's fun.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
That's terrifying, isn't it? Right?
So
and so
Alan just, oh
Yeah.
man.
Alan just like, oh my god, no, don't do that.
Don't do that.
No. Please
Why
don't.
wouldn't you? That's so fun, right? But but for those who don't know, like black dragons, their thing is so every type of dragon in Dungeons and Dragons is distinguished by its horde. Like what is it used for its horde? And black dragons like to corrupt good people. That is what they want to do. And so the party was going to sneak in and try to go steal the hand from its horde and get out. And so what this the therapeutic thing was, um all right, I want them to come up with a plan and figure out how to execute their plan, and if it goes wrong, how to step back from that and how to I want to see them being able to think on their feet was part of this, because a lot of the folks in my groups tend to be on the spectrum, and so one of the things we see on the spectrum, and also with ADHD too, is this fusion of thinking of like, once we're on the rails, that's where we're going to stay. I can't deviate from the plan. And so I wanted to see how it went. And so we went by a dice roll, and I think one person passed their stealth check.
Oh boy.
And so the dragon saw them, and I'm like, okay, now they're going to run and regroup. They decided to parlay with the dragon.
Ooh, okay.
And
Interesting.
oh, it was fascinating because it built this encounter that I was completely improving it, but it built this encounter that I had not been expecting, that was so powerful to them, because what ended up happening was they had different choices in front of them, but none of them were good. And like they were sitting there, like they were really, really upset because of just the corner they had gotten themselves into. And one of the things I do is I put my DM screen down to signal like, we're not talking game now, we're talking process. And I was saying to this group with the DM screen down, I was going like, this is life. We watch all these shows and movies and things where it shows like this right decision with sunshine and rainbows and this wrong decision with lots of bad consequences. Like, but that's not it. Like, it's this bad choice, or this bad choice. And you got to choose which one. And like, this sucks. And this is what we're going to be experiencing throughout our lives. So this is, and I'm, some dungeon masters would be mad at me for doing this, but I was also like, also, you all, this is a game. Like, even if you choose something bad, I'm gonna soften the blow, but not right away. There's hope, because it's a game, and dang it, you can have hope in the world.
Absolutely.
And so, and like, then we processed some more, and they came up with a decision. But it was really, really powerful. But like, when we're talking about therapeutic encounters, I didn't plan that stuff. Like, I had a plan, but again, we're talking that jazz, right? That ability to improv and to move around, and to see what was coming up and how the players were doing, and then to read that room correctly and to help them process their emotions and to work on it. And like, I remember from that encounter specifically, one of the players came up the week after, because one of the bad choices that the dragon gave them was their lawful good cleric could cut off their hand and get the hand of Vecna put on them. And so for those who are not familiar with the hand of Vecna, it is an evil thing that will corrupt. It is basically like the One Ring. You can try to use it for good, but you can't.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was just hyper focused on wanting to do that, and that the black dragon was, of course, manipulating, trying to get that to happen, because that's its horde, right? That here is a lawful good cleric that I can fuse to an evil artifact that is going to overpower them. And the rest of the party was saying no, 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 and finally intervened. And the next week, that player came up to me after and was like, I am so grateful for that encounter. Like, I've been told I get stuck on things, but I didn't realize how stuck on a situation. And like, I went and I looked that stuff up after that probably would have killed my character. And I was like, yeah, probably would have eventually, like that. And like, I could have done something like that in real life and had real life consequences. I was like, well, it's good that we had that here then, right? And that's the power of this game, right? Where again, in therapy, we could talk about that in a general sense and process it, but it doesn't. I talk about knowing something, so tap on your head knowing something versus tap on your heart knowing something. And so this, what I see in therapeutic gaming is get it into your heart knowing of like, I deeply know this and I deeply understand this thing.
Yeah. If you can just only sort of I'll use it this way, regurgitate only what you've been told, but you can't explain it in your own words, you didn't grasp it yet.
Yes.
You have to be able to grasp and understand and be able to say in your own words this sort of thing that you're learning, because it just becomes a part of your own vernacular. I think that's right there. Like that's just increasing like almost that like frustration tolerance too, because there's only three decisions and none of them were good, and none of them were the ones they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like, okay, you got to make a choice here. There's no other way to do it. Which kind of sort of goes into radical acceptance, which we can
Yeah.
dive right into that too. Which, before we went live, I was very intrigued because a lot of your work, a lot of your just research and things has been about acceptance and commitment therapy, and one of the biggest aspects of that is this radical acceptance.
Yeah, ACT
Yeah.
is this phenomenal thing. So I can't. So this is more psychology stuff than just gaming stuff. But
Yeah.
my theoretical orientation all through graduate school
Did we
was
just become best
existential
friends?
psychology, which is heavy philosophy. I actually have a cousin who's a PhD in actual philosophy, like doctor of philosophy in philosophy, and he would be like, he would read all the same existential type books I'm doing, and he's like, how do you use this to help people? This seems so depressing. I'm like, I don't know, it just works in my brain as a way to help people. But the military is heavy CBT, and I hate CBT. I'm using the word hate. Like, good on you if you can use CBT, and more power to you. It is not
Yeah.
my cup of tea at all. ACT though, I had a 2-day training with DJ Moran came and did a 2-day training at my internship, and it was like this light bulb of just this perfect that I thought were good, but I felt were too shallow. And then all of the deep philosophy of existential psychology, and they just kind of came together. And this idea, one of the big things is accepting things for what they are, seeing them for what is rather than what we want. And accepting other people is such a big thing. And one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou is, believe people who, when people show you who they are, believe them. And so much of our frustration and so much of the challenges we have in this world could be just not nearly as painful if we just believed people when they showed us their true colors. Like, in the military, one of the challenges in the military is you can't quit. You get assigned to a bad, toxic work environment. You can't get out of it. You have to sit it out and wait.
And it's looked down upon so much if you have any inkling of getting out of it too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like, but I was seeing places where like everybody knew that the command was awful.
Yeah.
Everyone hated them, but everybody just, all you could do was sit and bide your time until you ETS'd out of there. And when I was working with these soldiers, we would say like, okay, so you're superior. How do they behave? And is swearing okay on this podcast, or should I use PG language?
It's after 10. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's like, okay,
We're
so
Adult Swim.
Your your boss yesterday, or last week, how did they behave? I was like, well, they were an asshole. Okay. Yesterday, how did they behave? They were an asshole. All right. So today, when you needed them to sign your leave form and be a nice person, we were expecting them to be a nice person suddenly. When all the experience we have in the past is what? That they're an asshole. I was like, so when you go to bring them your leave form, how can you expect them to behave? Like an asshole, right? And it's that idea of like, can we just accept like that's who that person is, that those are their stripes, and we've got to learn to work with that, because once we understand this is how this person operates, I can get frustrated at that, or I can accept that and try to work with it. It's an interesting thing too, because I think so many people think acceptance means liking and being
Yes.
okay with, and it's like, no.
Mm-mm.
No. Like, I can accept the fact that the tire on my car is flat. I don't have to like it.
Right.
But if I don't accept that tire's flat and I drive around on the rim, I'm going to create all kinds of other problems for myself.
you're turning a $500 job into a $2,000 job, basically.
Exactly. And so, like, when we can start to wrap our heads around that and just sort of accept things for what they are and try to roll with it, and like, this whole past year of COVID, it's there's been so much where I just want to get frustrated and angry. And I think so
Yeah.
many of us do. And rightfully so. Like, there's been a lot to be frustrated and angry about. There's also been some really freaking cool things. Like, our technology has progressed to the point that our schools, without missing too much of a beat, yes, a couple of months, but really in the grand scheme of things, that's not nothing. And they flip to online learning.
Yeah.
Like, all these teachers who didn't think that they would ever be able to do that or manage a kindergarten class through Zoom calls and things suddenly are doing that. And parents, are getting to find ways to spend more time with their kids. And I think, one of my personal things for a lot of families is people are overbooked and
Mhm.
suddenly learning like what it's like to actually spend time with your family again and to be around people. Like, I think that's been really, powerful and possible. And I can only, I think, really see and appreciate those good things if I can accept and understand that the bad stuff is there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, for me at least, what I'm seeing is that first piece that you mentioned, that understanding that acceptance doesn't mean acceptance also doesn't mean forgiving potentially as well either. It really is just more so that lead in to really sort of like living a little bit of a healthier life, in a sense, if you're able to accept the things that we cannot change.
Yeah.
Once we start, we can live by that and make changes to ourselves as we need. And it's such a powerful but also difficult thing
Yeah.
to grasp at the same time. And yeah, we're going straight psychology and therapy, and that's okay, because I'm looking at the chat, and it's amazing how, again, when it comes from the heart and we can break it down into, explain it in our own way, it becomes easier to understand. And I think that's really, as therapists, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
In a
Yeah.
sense, we're taking all the technical jargon that we've learned from schools and years in schools and relaying it to the person that, used to be in front of me on a couch, but now,
It's on
on
the
the
other
other
side of
side
the
of his
screen.
screen, on the
Yeah.
other side of his screen. Being able to teach that and to model that and to show that is amazing. I mean, I've had sessions just recently too, where I've almost gotten, and it's a little bit of counter transference, and I work on it with my supervisor, but like I've almost gotten like assertive for them, where
Yeah.
I'm like, no, absolutely, you set that boundary. What do we do? You need to, because this has to happen first, and once you set this boundary, this is when you can start working on things. And I had a client like, wait, what? I was like, no, I'm modeling how you should be, how I want you to try to practice this, for when we meet next session. And it really is just, it's an amazing
Yeah.
process.
And one plug I'll give for something that's totally not mine, but is uh, Russ Harris's book, The Happiness Trap. If you're
Yes.
looking for a great, just kind of introduction to acceptance and commitment therapy, or just kind of a good general self-help book that follows ACT principles, anything by Russ Harris, honestly, but
It's amazing.
yeah, The Happiness Trap is probably it's the most broad, and that one's really great. But like, he wrote his rhyming scheme books of the happiness, or was it the confidence gap? What's the other one? He's got another rhyming one. Oh gosh, I'm gonna forget it now.
I don't know it off the top of my head, unfortunately.
I don't remember, but anything by Russ Harris is really good. Yeah, I recommend The Confidence Gap a lot to those who are feeling like dealing with imposter syndrome and problems around that. He's also got Act with Love, which is his couples therapy book. So yeah, anything by Russ Harris is really, really good. But yeah, The
Yeah.
Happiness Trap, whenever I'm talking with clients, you know, one of the things I'll say is like, get this book. If you don't read it, that's totally fine. Keep it on your bookshelf because I steal
Yes.
liberally from it. You know, you're going to go read through it in a few years and be like, Dr. Connell took everything from this. It's like,
Right,
yes, I
right.
do. But it's good. And the thing is, you know, during my intake with clients, one of the things I say is like, my job is to get you to fire me because you don't need to see me anymore. I want you
Mhm.
better. And part of that is understanding that you're going to struggle again. You're going to work on this thing, and then 10 year, you know, 4 or 5 years, 10 years, whatever down the road, you're going to have trouble again. And if you have this book on your bookshelf, it's at least a reminder of the stuff that we've done. And so maybe you don't have to come back into my office, or you can. That's fine too.
And I guess to sort of these are the things that I know I steal and I take from every sort of um, theoretical practice or therapeutic practice, I should say. I steal from CBT, I steal from DBT, I steal from ACT because I look at the person. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's most important. Like, what is this person who's in front of me right now? What do they need? What can benefit them? Okay, is radical acceptance something that they can process and handle right now? If yes, let's go. That's my flow sheet, so to speak. If
Yes.
not, where do we go?
Yeah.
What's next? Is it more so crisis management? Do we have to really just continue psychoed and um, coping skills just to get back to baseline before we go anything deeper, and I'm getting into jargon and I apologize, but it really is just to bring it back home, so to speak, how we get there and the avenues that we use, be it games, be it music, be it
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
just play in general.
Yeah.
Right. Music and games are the two things that I've primarily used in therapy sessions. Music a bit more so. So I'm excited to incorporate this eventually. But again, it's just the avenues that we can use and be creative in our own selves too. I had a supervisor once who said therapy it can be considered art because of what we do and how creative we have to be to sort of help the person that's in front of us.
No, most definitely. And like to bring it back into like, you know, gaming and like how I use ACT with gaming, like,
Yeah.
you know, one of the big, few big things with ACT, I think one of them being turning towards the thing that scares you. And so that's diffusion in a lot of ways. So we talk about like we have a lot of noise in our head, right?
Hello,
Stuff
just
saying, you can't do
Angela.
this, you don't
Thank you
want to
so
do
much
this.
for the follow.
And what we want to do
Appreciate
is
it.
we want to kind of turn towards those voices because all big and scary, and so we run away from them. And we avoid the things that are making us anxious because our head's telling us that they're big and scary and we can't handle it. And so when we learn to turn towards that stuff, it's not as scary. You know, this powerful question I have my clients ask themselves a lot is when their brain's going, what if, we change it to, what would I do if? And when we do that, we engage the problem solving part of our brain. And suddenly we realize like, oh, well, if I fail this test or if I don't get into this school, then I can do these things and I'll be okay. And that's a really powerful thing. And I think one of the things that helps people turn towards stuff is making monsters. I've actually done this with a couple of my clients where we turn their psychological struggle into a monster with stats. And we give it a stat block and we give it a feel and we do all these things. And that helps to, kind of envision it and to see it as something else, something other. It's part of me, but it's not all of me.
Something they could actually beat.
Yes. Yeah. And I did a wonderful interview as part of Psychology at the Table with, I think it was the folks at Cobalt Press. I'm trying to remember. Megan and I think it was Dan Dillon was the other person. Gosh, I should remember the people I interviewed, but it was wonderful. But we talked about monster building and what to do to build a monster and what makes a good monster. And one of the things that they brought up that was really powerful was weaknesses. That when, it's so often when we are thinking about like our own struggles, we just see them as this monster that is completely invulnerable. But no, really, there's vulnerabilities there. Like depression. It tells you can't get out of bed. You can't see your friends. You already feel like crap, so don't go exercise. Ugh, you feel bad, so you deserve to eat this bad food because you feel bad. That's going to make you feel better somehow. And so like that's the strength of it, is it makes this stuff sound very persuasive. So we could almost think of like depression as having like a high charisma.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we really could flip it around, like that's also, it's if we don't believe the stuff it's saying and we start doing the opposite of what it's telling us to do, we start to feel better. Like if it's saying, don't get out of bed, you feel too tired, get out of bed. If it's saying, don't go see your friends, they don't want to really see you, see your friends. You feel like crap already, why should you exercise? You're just going to feel worse. My argument to that is, if you already feel like crap, you might as well feel like crap for a reason. Right.
Very true.
And the
Very,
more
very
we
true.
do that, then it starts to weaken it. And so then we can kind of get these different ideas to see how we can battle these things. And like going back to psychological encounters, we actually had an interesting one where I can't remember why this player did this. I think they were going to be away for 2 weeks. And so we decided to have their character become incapacitated. And so during those 2 weeks, the rest of the party had to find a way to get into this character's psyche and free them. And so I sat down with that player and we built like 2 or 3 encounters that were that character's insecurities. And so then the party had to go and help that character get through their insecurities, and to show that coming together and helping them out in order to get the character back into the campaign after the player came back.
Amazing.
And that I should say something really important here too. Is like, this is all done with consent.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is done with consent. If you are a dungeon master, do not try to therapize your players if you do not have their consent to do so, and if you are not trained to do so. Like, you will damage your friendship, you could damage your friends, and you could open up boxes that you are not ready to see. And they are not ready to.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
But what I will add to that, though, I think, and this is what we did learn in session 1 of the D&D training through Leyline, was a few ways to talk to your DM in regards to what are good topics, what are bad topics, what are topics to never bring up. The X card was something that was taught, and I am pulling up the other thing right now too.
As
because
the Luxton technique, I believe.
Is it? It might be, and of course,
because that one's a variation on the X card. That I like it. I will say the write up for it is not very good, but the heart of it is good. Because so for those who are unfamiliar with these different safety measures, lines and veils is sort of the first one that we got. I think that was created in the 80s, where essentially we have these hard lines that stuff does not happen in the game, and then we have veils where that stuff happens, but it happens off screen. We don't worry about that. You know,
that's
sort
the
of
one.
Like, yep, yeah, we pan to the fireplace kind of thing, right?
Yes.
The X card is a little different. This is where if something is going on that we don't like in the session, we tap an X. We hold up an X card and we just immediately cut away from that and kind of pretend it doesn't happen or something along those lines. The Luxton method uses the lines and veils, but also the X card in a way where when you throw the X card, you give a little bit of an explanation. You don't need to go into full detail, but you can also use it to say something that you need. So an example might be like, you throw it and you say, whatever happens, I need my character for me as a player, I need this NPC to survive. I need us to save this NPC. And so then we kind of change things around.
Yeah.
Or we say like, can we please change this here? This is reminding me too much of something in school, something in my past, and it's not fun. It would be better for me if it was this way. And so I really like that technique because it empowers the players to shift things the way they want to, and it gives the game master or the dungeon master some clues as to what's going on and how they can help and not misstep.
Nice. That makes it a lot more welcoming and
because
more safe.
I think as a player, I probably would never throw the X card just because, honestly, like, that's so much pressure just to throw it, and it's like we're all jamming, we're going, and then poop, we're suddenly just out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, I agree. I think being able to give that card, and of course my mind, just because of the conversations we were having, I'm thinking as a therapist, also too, potentially, like, throw the X card. Why? What are you feeling right now, and what do you need to happen, so to speak? And that also just again gives even a therapist data, but in a DM sense, it gives the DM like, okay, I know to avoid this for next or future sessions to again create an inclusive game.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, and knowing those lines, like you don't want to trigger stuff. Like,
Right.
I've got my own, from being in the military. Like, we were talking about this before we went live. Like, the job of a therapist is we carry people's worst days, especially if you're a trauma therapist. I've done a lot of trauma work. It's what you do in the military, and I've carried that into my civilian career. And so my job is to take somebody's absolute worst day, and I carry it for them, or I carry it with them. And that's a lot, right? And so we are this witness and we're carrying these things, but like we don't even know sometimes where things are. Like I was playing a game with my Sunday group, which I adore my Sunday group, but something came up that brought up one of those stories that I'm carrying for somebody, and I with digital games, I ripped my headphones off and just threw them across the room. And I get, because we had not talked, my fun game, like the stuff like that had never come up. We hadn't talked about safety tools, and I had people like, are you okay? I'm like, we just hit a line I didn't even know I had.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it's important. It's important to have that stuff.
Yeah. It's funny.
Absolutely.
I saw an interesting analogy about what you were about how you were saying that as therapists, you guys carry other people's stories, and the analogy was to Sam and Frodo at the end of Lord of the Rings, where Sam looks at Frodo and says, "Well, I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you."
Yes.
And I saw that, and I was like, that is a great analogy for therapists, because we're not taking the trauma from you, we're helping you work through it.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. It's the way that I explain it is I'm holding on to this for right now until you tell me, or until we both come to an agreement that we've processed this, that we've spoken about it, that I can give this back to you in a better, healthier way.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're giving me all the bad. You're giving me every single wrong thing, and that's okay, because that's my job. My job is to sort of catch that. I'm gonna give it back, but you'll be able to handle it a ton better.
Yes.
Like a vaccine versus getting sick.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Although therapy sometimes might take a little bit more than 2 shots, and
Yeah. Feeling tired and all
three or
that.
4
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks apart, so to speak.
Well,
your arm won't hurt though.
Yeah. To get back to like
Touché.
the one of the cool things about going through, for those who are interested in becoming a therapeutic GM, like the training we did with the fact that we have these, professional DMs who are leading everybody through 2 hours of play every week. Like they've got so many years of experience, and they know the things, like the things you don't even know are things. They know are things, and they know how to use those things and what those things are, and how to avoid them. And so it's great just to be able to borrow that wisdom and to hear from that, and to learn and understand what this stuff is in a really deep way. I think it's really powerful.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm just reading chat a little bit. That's why I'm like leaning.
Actually, I
looking over.
I got a question. Do you guys find that if using D&D as a tool for therapy would help someone who's having trouble opening up, if they could like create a character and then have that character kind of work through a similar issue or trauma that they're having, so they're not like kind of like putting up a shield, and in a sense where they're looking through the shield to see what the character's doing, and then having it affect them as well. And it's hard for me to get it across, but
no, completely. So Sarah Lynn Bowman, who is one of the early like researchers and spearheads like of using role play as a form of therapy, talks about this concept of bleed, which I will say I'm not a fan of the term, because it's a weird thing to write.
Kind of a graphic term, yeah.
Yeah, it's like we had so much bleeding tonight. It was amazing. It just sounds terrible. Like I was trying to make a push for emotional permeability, because even though it's a more wordy way of saying it, I think it's a little bit better to use, especially talking to parents.
Yeah,
Emotion
I also
sieves.
can't imagine that progress note too. Bleed
Yeah.
was noticed during this session.
Yeah, right. Like this just
I
doesn't
don't know how
really.
well that work over. OMH would
Yeah,
not have a good time with that one.
yeah. So the idea is bleed in is where your stuff as a player goes into the character, and bleed out is where stuff from the character comes to you. So they're using the term bleed like ink bleeding on a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
But still, like, just again, the process note stuff would be bad. But that certainly is what happens, right? And this is where, like, when it, this the thing I really 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 want to see research on, aside from everything around D&D, is how we make D&D memories. Because when you're talking about the things your character did in a game, you don't use the terms like, do you remember that time when our characters were going across that bridge and we had to face that troll, and then we decided to trick them with the thing from Monty Python? Right? We said, do you remember that time we went across that bridge and we met that troll? Right? We use the first person, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. So that means like that those memories feel more real to us, that we are really connected in that way. And so like these, like the player I was talking about earlier, like that was a bleed in, right, where the emotions from her character kind of came into the person, and the person was really able to take that on and be like, oh crap, and I didn't see this, right? And um definitely seen this where players who've had just a super bad day, and they're all of a sudden their character is really aggressive, and it's like, what's going on here? How's the
Right.
player do? It's like, player had a bad day. All right, cool. We're just gonna go into combat. Like, we're just,
Yeah, jump
y'all
right
need to
into it.
just, yep. If y'all just need an excuse to go kill something, here's a bunch of animated suits of armor. You don't even have to feel bad,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Just have
And the
some fun with
D20
it.
is rolled. Random
Like-
encounter 122. Let's go.
Yep, yep.
Like
Here we
going
go.
into Doom and putting in all the cheat modes and
Yeah,
Just
right.
having a blast.
Yeah, so you definitely see that. And like this, one of the reasons I've started asking the clients to tell me what their goal for the character is because it gives them the autonomy, it gives them the control, right? They are the ones now who get to have the say in what is okay to grow in, right? So like, if you've got a player who, say, has a lot of trauma history, and you know they need to process and work on their trauma, and you try to have that happen
Crazy
in the game,
Frozen
and they're
Berry,
not
thank you
ready
so
for
much
it,
for
they're going to
coming and
steer
hanging
away
out
from
with
it
us
every time.
tonight.
But if you ask that player, what is your goal for your character, and they maybe say, like, that first stage of like, I want to learn to trust people. Okay, that's what we're going to work on. Rather than trying to directly address the trauma, let's start where you're ready to start. And we start giving those opportunities for growth, and then that's where the growth happens. And then as they move through it, we might get to that stuff. I think the thing that is so, again, consent. And when
Yes.
we are asking our players how they want to see their characters grow, that's them giving consent. And so like, and I'll even sometimes very explicitly say like, okay, so what you're telling me is like, you're giving me permission as a dungeon master to put these kinds of opportunities before your character, and I just want to make sure that's what you want. Yes. All right, we got this.
Yeah.
I hope that answers
Nice.
your question.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I, again, it's meeting, like just like you said, it's meeting the person where they are.
Yes.
Right. You're not gonna dive in to okay, session 1, here's your trauma, go. No. First of all, it's just ethically kind of wrong in a sense too, but again, it's more so like, okay, you're focused on, whether it's trust or whether it's and my brain is blanking because it's 11 o'clock and I've been looking at houses all day. We'll stick with trust because my brain's not there today.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, I love it. I really do, because this is just another avenue, another creative space to be able to provide that therapeutic skill to somebody else. And I think and I'm going to use this word, for us, right? This is something that we love. This
Yeah.
is tabletop is the fact that we can do something that we love but benefit other people. I think that just in and of itself gives a sense of pride to us as a therapist in a way.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think like that's one of the things where when I had that little aha moment with D&D, like it wasn't a question of, should I use this as a therapeutic tool? It was, oh my God, I have to use this as a therapeutic tool. Like this is too
Right.
powerful. This is good. This is amazing. Like this is a person growing machine built into a game that's super fun. Like, yeah, of course I'm going to use this therapeutically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't a matter of how, it was a matter of when. When is
Yes.
this happen? But okay. I know. Joe, how are we on time? Because I feel like we've just exploded through.
We did, and I'll tell you what, we're doing good on time, but mind blank.
Mind
I'm
blank.
looking at it, I'm like, I just briefly skimmed over some of the talking points that we had, and tell you the truth, the conversation was just so great, and I really loved. Matt messaged me. He goes, "I hope I'm not sidetracking." No, this is fantastic. This has been a very
I literally
great
side messaged him. I was
conversation.
like, "Listen, shut me up if you need to. Like, just mute
Not
me.
at all.
You have the power to mute me."
I heard you have the power to mutiny. So
ooh. Edit.
Well,
1 hour and
Blackbeard,
16 minutes.
he's being called Blackbeard right now in chat, so that does make sense. It tracks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh God,
that's how we
mutant.
roll.
Yeah.
No,
But again,
that's great right
Yeah.
there. I mean, was a very wonderful conversation about all the different facets and everything with utilizing D&D in therapy sessions and allowing your characters and the person to project through their character. If anybody in chat has any questions, feel free to ask. But outside of that, I mean, is the training course open to the public, to non-professionals?
I believe it's open to students who are becoming therapists. I want to say I believe there is a track for non-professionals. Like we've got a for the certification in geek therapeutics and being a culturally competent geek therapist, there is a I'm forgetting what the name of the certification is, but it's for non-licensed folks who are, but still mostly in the mental health field because it is where it leans. But yeah, I think I think almost anybody can take the training, but please don't quote me on that. I may be wrong on that. Double check with it, on there. But there's the training is just it's top tier. I'm super duper proud of it. It was a lot of hard work, but and like I feel the need too to say like we're not the only training program out there. There's others too that are going on, and we're all different, and we all focus on different things. And like it's this wonderful thing because we've done as much as we can to try to foster good relationships between all of us. Like that's why my players are all on clinical role are all running their own centers where they use tabletop gaming and stuff. And so it's so cool to see all of us like existing and excelling together and working together. And it's just it is phenomenal to see the different things out there.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Definitely. We'll look into a few other options too, in case any non-professionals are interested in going, down this pathway to kind of incorporate some of these sort of facets into their own campaigns and stuff like that.
For people who are non-professionals, not to be self-serving, but I really would encourage you to check out my Psychology at the Table stream on Geeks Like Us's YouTube. If it's a great kind of just way to talk about how to help your players out and without being a therapist. This idea of like, okay, I've got, so-and-so at my table who's really anxious. How do I help decrease their anxiety? Or this person has told me they have, a mathematics disorder. Like, what does that mean? How do I help them in this game where we do a ton of math? What's a better way to help them out? I did an interview with Satine Phoenix and talked about her history with brain injury and how that impacted her ability to play and to engage with the game. So just lots of different resources on there for just learning a little bit about, just sort of basics of psychology and basics of how to be a good supportive friend. Because I think one of the things we say is like, okay, I want anybody to be at my table. I want to be welcoming, but what does that look like? What does being a supportive friend of somebody who has really bad PTSD look like at the gaming table? And how do you, have that line between I'm your friend, not your therapist, but I want to be here for you, and I don't want your mental health to be a reason that you alienate yourself from us. And so that's, I think, a really great resource as well.
That's fantastic. And I put that in the chat, too, for anybody to check out as well. And we'll put it in our show notes as well for anybody to check out later on. So when you're done listening, you hear that and you're interested, scroll down in the show notes and I'll have the link for you. I think go ahead, Matt.
Just to touch. I mean, I think the most bare basic as well too is have that session zero be as open as obviously as a person feels comfortable being, but I think a DM does have a little bit of a responsibility just to be like, hey, if something I say does not track well, if something that we're doing within the campaign does not track well, again, the X card right there. I've told some players of mine, like, just DM me. Like, DM me just a letter and I'll be like, all right, let's take a 5-minute break, just so that way you can catch your breath, or just so that way if we need to talk, we talk. Just so that way it makes it open and available as much as possible. I've said it, I don't think anybody is expecting somebody who's a DM in a non-professional setting to be a therapist at that point. It's really just about that openness, that inclusivity, and just listening and being able to adapt on the fly a little bit too. Like, okay, this doesn't track, cool, so we'll ixnay that. I know to ixnay that for the future. Let's just go here instead.
Yep.
And if it does derail a game, that's okay. Just get a book of random encounters and go.
Yes. Or like one of my favorite things, the Deck of Wonder from Gemhammer and Sons. This is so much fun. Like, it's 100 random things that can happen in your game, and it brings delight to all of my games. I make sure my players always have a way to pull from this deck.
Do a plug for us for that. You mentioned before we were recording about
Gemhammer and Sons, they do more better game stuff is their thing, but the Deck of Wonder, this is cards that just are random. So, I mentioned that in the beginning, I used to be an overplanner. And so I kind of decided to do sort of exposure therapy for myself of like, okay, I'm going to completely surrender control. And I'm going to just lean into chaos. And so I gave my players the ability to pull from this deck. And so things happen like you cast Wish. It's a card. Gets pulled. Or we've got you summon a random god to your aid.
Boy.
And I did this because like I knew I needed to be able to think on my feet better. I wanted to be able to let go of control of the game. And this has made the game so much better. Like in my Monday stream game, actually this was a card that got pulled of you get a help from a random god, and like I ended up having one of the players visit Paylor, who is sort of central to this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of funny because I was like, oh, I'm going to use this for a little bit of an exposition dump to kind of help guide the players along as to what's going on. And the player's like, I thought I was supposed to get the help of this god. And I was like, the god touches your shoulder and all of your muscles, and because it's the barbarian character. And so now this player's walking around going, I got a massage from Paylor.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yes, that's great.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a resource that I highly encourage people to use. It's so much fun, and like learning to let go of control in that way, I think is just so powerful.
I'm reading some of these cards, and some of them, like you mentioned, and then there's another one here that caught my eye. The entire party is now on fire. Yeah. Stop, drop, and roll a saving throw.
Yes.
Like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
Sounds like a wild magic table.
It really is. It is, and I think
This
it's like
looks
way
so
better.
much fun.
It is a blast, and like I think that's something too. Is if you were a DM and like you're kind of panicky to things, lean into the things that scare you. You know, something that I've learned also in ACT is like the voices in our head are quiet when we're in our safe zone. But when we're in our safe zone, we're not growing and we are not developing. And so we got to find stuff that scares us a little bit and lean into it. And so for me, improv was the thing that scared me. And so I leaned into it heavy, and I'm so glad I did, because that is such a helpful tool.
That is fantastic.
It is.
Now, you also mentioned too. We're at the end of our show, and before we sign off, you did mention that you knew some really great Kickstarters and things like that.
Yeah.
Feel free to share some of those with our listeners and everybody, so they can go check it out, and for myself as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I am Dr. Megan, and I have a Kickstarter problem. But I adore all the Kickstarters.
Hi, Dr. Meg.
Yeah, it's terrible. Oh my gosh. But I love it. No, if you're looking for good stuff for a one shot, there's this one that it's a done Kickstarter. You can buy this stuff now. It's called the Story Engine. For the podcast people, this is great. I'm holding up the box. It doesn't help. It's cards though that build random. It basically builds a random story. It's a story generator. It gives you a person, so sort of your antagonist, and then something that they, an idea of something they're motivated towards, what they want, and then the foil, like the consequence of what they want. And it gives you this ability to put a thing of like it's cursed, or they're a defiant type person, or they're greedy or whatever. And so it's a great like seed for a story to tell and to go around that. Those who are not familiar with the Wango, oh gosh, I might be saying that wrong. The Wango Chronicles. It was a Kickstarter, successful several months ago. It's a supplement for 5e, but they are also turning it into an MMORPG, where it's all based on African lore, and it's building in. So it's taking the classes for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but putting all of the lore behind traditional African myths and legends and the African pantheon in there, and so it's fascinating. It's wonderful. The art is fantastic. Like
Is it the Wagadu?
Wagadu, yes, Wangandu, I think is how you pronounce it.
Wagadu.
Wagandu,
They got
yes.
so many different expansions for it already.
Yeah, it's
Circuits
gonna
and
be,
cybernetics too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I got to do, as part of the training, like I actually did an interview with Ellen, I'm blanking on his last name, and Jennifer Krinster, for talking about diversity and issues of diversity and inclusivity in gaming. And it was just so phenomenal to sit down and talk with him, and how passionate he is about this, and like the fact that so little has been done to bring in this really amazingly rich culture that is all, throughout Africa into gaming. We're oversaturated with European myths, and like we're now finally getting some mythology from other cultures, which is so wonderful. This one's not a Kickstarter, but this was on Indiegogo, but now is going to be through. Sorry, it used to be the Deck of Many. They just rebranded, and I can't recall what they rebranded to.
Oh, I didn't even know they rebranded.
Yeah, because they do more than decks now. So they rebranded to, I think, someone's looking it up. Then we'll edit it in and make it sound.
Hit Point Press.
Hit Point Press. So Hit Point Press. It's the Santa Una, and that's it's based on Filipino mythology, and so all of that, and again, artwork phenomenal in that book. That will be coming out soon, and then
nice.
Yeah, there are so many really good ones out there.
These are the guys that do Humblewood.
Yes. Oh, and if you have not seen Humblewood, oh my God.
There's a great
check that
there's a
out.
great actual play podcast that's in the Humblewood setting if you want to check it out too.
Yeah, it's so good. Like,
I can share it to anyone who wants it.
Yeah, Humblewood is so
These are
sweet.
so cool. I love this place.
So you say that, and then the only podcast that came to my mind is Hello from the Magic Tavern. I don't know if anybody has heard of it, but
No.
don't look it up.
Oh God.
It's satirical, but it's hilarious.
Well, and another couple of ones that I've gotten that I'm really looking forward to utilizing more in gaming, because I use other board games as well with my clients. There's a party game called Growl that is a lot of fun. It's a werewolf game.
Ooh, cool.
And there's an expansion to that. It's super fun. Like the thing I love about Growl is at the end, if you're a human, you stand up and you cheer. If you're a werewolf, you howl. And so if anybody cheers, the werewolf's lost. But hopefully, if you're a werewolf, you've turned everybody at the table into a werewolf, and so everybody's howling.
Oh my god.
It's
That's
super
great.
fun. It's a great kind of icebreaker game too, because
Yeah.
I hate icebreaker games. So like just getting people down to sit and play. Another super fun just kind of game to get people talking and laughing with each other is called Sparkle Kitty.
Yes.
I've heard of that.
That one is
You're
phenomenal.
killing me.
You're a princess in a tower, and you have to lay down words, and so you say things like "monster cupcake,"
Oh my god.
and this is just you're saying ridiculous words, and you can add dark magic to it, where you get to be like Ultra Sparkle Kitty or Ultra, Puffy Unicorn.
I saw
It's
this at
so-
PAX.
Yes, it is so much fun. I've actually I built a D&D encounter where they encountered Loki, and so Loki made them play that game.
Ah!
And they were like, "This is
Great.
ridiculous," but they all had a lot of fun with it. It was really funny. Yes, those are a few that I really like. I'm getting Monty Cook's Poultice, which I'm looking forward to because I hate building cities. And it's a 200-page tome about a city where everything in that city is planned out. So I am super excited about that. Yeah.
I might need that too.
Yeah, it's really funny. I hate cities, and yet I always seem to end up being like, okay, so the players need to go to this city, and I'm like, and now I have to plan another city.
Right.
Why do I do this to myself?
My goodness.
Why can't every adventure just happen on the road?
Yeah. Here's a tavern randomly in the woods. No, it's the Fluffy Duckling Tavern. That's all you need to know. Everything's gonna happen around there.
Right.
I don't have enough shelf space for all these games.
Yeah.
Well,
There's.
guess you got to build a shelf.
Yep. Yeah. There's a bunch that are coming out that I'm so excited about.
Super cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good ones. Another one that I kickstarted. I actually got to play test this at Gen Con is Build a Cure, where a nuclear apocalypse has happened, and you are with some scientists down in a bunker, but there were vials of different diseases, and each of you got exposed to something different, and so you have to build the chemical makeup of the cure for the disease for everybody, so that you can get out of the bunker to go and help everybody. So it's
I'm looking this up right now because
Yeah,
that sounds interesting.
that one's really cool, and the chemical compounds that you make are the actual chemical compounds needed for the cure for the different disease that you have.
It sounds very similar to a game I played called, I think it's called Plague. It's a mobile game.
Oh,
where
you play
there's-
Gank, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
where you have to make the cure, and if
Yep.
you're going too slow, you can see when you first mix it, you're starting to cure countries, and then they start to be immune to mutate.
Yep. Yeah, it's very funny when COVID-19 first started coming out. I was very thankful I had played a lot of Plague Inc. I have
Yes.
people that in my office are like, "This isn't such a big deal." I'm like, "Have you all ever played Plague Inc.?" No. I'm like, "No, this is all bad. What's going on? It's bad."
We actually,
Yeah.
I remember us talking about that when it all started and how the downloads for that game shot through the roof when the pandemic started.
The
My
headlines
father got
early
me playing
on
that
were
a year ago.
so those who have not played Plague Inc., it's really fun. But one of the things that you have is you're designing a plague and you're trying to wipe out the humanity. It's a little depressing. They have made an expansion now where you actually try to make the cure for the plague, which is nice. But there's a scroller across the top that is all the headlines that are happening in the world. And those headlines kind of let you know how well you're doing with your disease. And one of the big things is if you can get your disease to be a certain amount of, you want it to be contagious, but not to have symptoms by the time the Olympics happen. Because if the Olympics happen, it's a super spreader event and you're almost guaranteed to win. But if the Olympics in Brazil get canceled, you have a really hard time winning the game.
tell you what, first time I played it, my father got me to play it, and he's a big gamer. And I was playing. I'm like, this is easy. You're playing, and you have 3/4 of the world taken over, and you're like, this is. And then all of a sudden, you see a country pop up that has a cure. It's testing, and you're like trying to squash it, and you're sitting there like mashing, like no,
Mutate,
and all of a sudden the world,
mutate.
it's like, I'm done with this game. No. I couldn't. It got me so many times where I thought I was gonna win, and then all of a sudden the cure comes out and it beats me back. But no, it is a really fun game.
It is, and like that's one of the things too of like to get back to like adults playing games. Like that game really did give me a different perspective on this whole pandemic, and understanding like when people are saying stay home, you need to stay home.
Oh yeah.
And like that, just it's a silly little mobile game, but man, that makes a big difference. Is understanding like, okay, no, we need to do this. Like this needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was awesome. Is there any other Kickstarter? I know we could sit here all night and talk about Kickstarters.
I could sit here all night. Yeah, no, I'm gonna give plugs to just a couple more. So one game is Villagers. If it's by Sinister Fish Games. If you haven't played that one, I love that game. I don't even know how to describe it. It is card based. It's sort of a worker recruitment deck buildy type game. Once you figure it out, though, it only takes about 15 minutes to play, and it is super fun. And I love it's one of those things I've become fascinated by game packaging, and the packaging for that game is great, and it makes sense, and just looks beautiful, and it's really fun to play. And then they just came out with a new game called Streets that is very similar to Villagers, but is more modern, takes place in like a cityscape. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think that does bring us to the end, unfortunately. But Dr. Megan, please plug your stuff now.
Yeah.
Plug yourself.
Well,
Where can people find you?
If you're interested in becoming a therapeutic dungeon master, please check out the course I helped develop at Leyline Geek Therapeutics. It's great. We go into ethics, we go into advertising, we go into session planning, we go into how to utilize digital resources, and you get to play it seriously is the course I really wish I had when I started all this. It is super amazing. Also, I do a lot of stuff with my company, Geeks Like Us. Like I said, I do the live play show Clinical Role, where we play D&D. We're in our final arc of that campaign, which I'm super excited about and interested to see how the party ends up handling their final battles and everything like that. I also do the Brain Noodles podcast, where we talk gaming and all kinds of other just random things that are on our brains. I host our happy hour every now and then. I have my show Psychology at the Table. And then I do Minecraft Mondays. We have a Minecraft realm for our Patreons and our Twitch subscribers, and we just get on there every now and then and just play. One of our community members has built a big game of Battleship that we're going to be playing next Monday.
Oh.
So I'm really excited to see how we end up doing that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. You got one coming up on the book club too, right?
Yes, and the book club. Oh, I'm so excited about the book. Yeah, we just launched the book club, and we're going to be talking about Ready Player 2 next Thursday, April 1st. Yes. Read that book. So if you have not finished the book yet and don't think you're going to finish it before the book club, still tune in. My co-hosts, I have given them a strict thing of like, we are not spoiling the last couple chapters of the book. I'm like, we're going to talk everything up to the last couple chapters. But we have a Geeks Like Us Discord where we all are. And then after we finish up the live stream, we're going to pop into the Discord. And then we will talk about the last couple chapters. Because I want to talk the last couple chapters with a bunch of people too.
I will be there.
Because there's lots of good stuff in that book. And I'm really excited because my co-founder, Dr. Ryan Kelly, he's much more into the neuroscience side of psychology than I am. And so I really want to dive into a lot of the what he thinks of the neuroscience in this sci-fi book. So it'll be really exciting.
Yes, it's going to be a blast, and I can't wait. And when I saw the conversation a couple weeks ago with everybody in the Geek Therapeutics server talking about it in the pop culture section, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a Ready Player 2? I didn't know that the book was out, and I instantly got it, and I devoured it. And I'm like, well, as soon as I finished, I'm like, is anybody talking about it? Is anybody talking about it yet?
Yeah, that was my thing. Is like I was wanted to talk about it, and like it's like I I have this community. Let's be a book club. Come on, we're all nerds. We like to read.
Yep.
Let's do this.
I'm gonna have to put down my horror podcasts and actually read that now.
It's pretty good, and
It's
I'm
good.
really curious. You brought up a point with talking about the neuroscience part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so interested to get Dr. Kelly's take on it and everything, what his thoughts are on it because it goes really in depth, and it's just a conversation I'm really looking forward to. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like for those who have read Ready Player One, I think Ready Player One was like this big like love letter to the '80s and nostalgia
Mhm.
stuff, and like that certainly is in Ready Player Two, but I don't feel like that's not the bulk of it. Like Ready Player Two really is more of the game and the problems, like all this stuff. So check it out; it's really good.
Yep. I
And
absolutely
if
agree.
you are an audiobook person like me, both Ready Player One and Ready Player Two are narrated by Will Wheaton. who is
Yes.
the
Oh, I'm
perfect
so glad I picked it
narrator.
up.
He does a
he's
great
the
job.
perfect narrator for those books.
He does a wonderful job for it. Absolutely. Well, fantastic. Matt, you want to bring us out the rest of the way?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just buying stuff from all the Kickstarters. So if you hear a lot of notifications going off, that's me.
We really are going to have to start Kickstarter Anonymous, aren't we? This is
Yes.
what's going to happen now. All right. I'll lead it. Anyway, thank you all for listening to the Guardians Mental Health Podcast. If you can, please leave us a review on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps spread the podcast to others who may not have heard of us. I just included really quick, we want to give a huge shout out to a couple of Twitch streamers who have recently did a fundraiser for us. First goes out to, and if I pronounced the name wrong, I'm sorry, Damin, who recently raised money for us. Please check him out at twitch.tv/DAHMIN. Also a shout out to @K Lightning, who did a fundraiser for us today. Their Twitch is twitch.tv/KAY Lightning. Thank you very much for helping and supporting our mission. Please keep up to date with everything we are doing over at guardiansmh.org. Follow us on Twitter @GuardiansMH. Join our partner Discord server, discord.gg/GuardiansMH, where we provide peer support, mental health resources, and we're just a really chill community. Please also find us on Tiltify if you are able to donate to our nonprofit, tiltify.com/GuardiansMH, as well as our Patreon for our mental health kit initiative. That's
Yes.
patreon.com/Guardians Mental Health, mental health kits, or our coffee at coffee.com/GuardiansMH. Last but not least, if you're looking for some, and I'm just going to do this every podcast now, some Lit Fire Flame merch, go to bonfire.com/store/GuardiansMH, and I'm going to get made fun of for all that I just said there. I'm sorry. It's what the kids are doing. All right, I'll
You
stop.
really went
Anyway,
right into it. I love it.
You
though.
just,
did.
yep.
I did.
Props, you did. Yep.
I did, and I'm getting to the point now where some of my clients are making fun of me, where I'm starting to try to use some of the lingo. I literally had a client like, don't. It's okay. You don't have to. I was like, but I'm not that old.
It's like what was my daughter? She was calling something. That's not swag, Dad. What? Is that like fetch? Like, is that no?
Fetch is coming back. I'm bringing Fetch back,
No.
by the way.
If
It's
nobody
happening.
gets that reference, at least one person did, because I
got
watched. I'll admit it. I watched Mean Girls, and
I've watched it multiple times. It's a fantastic movie. Are we trying to pretend like it's not a good movie?
nope, absolutely not. I'm owning it.
Uh-oh. It's we're getting close to like the midnight
Alan's-
where we
Yeah, Alan's losing it. But
He's losing it.
two other things that I want to bring up before we sign off. If you're interested in getting some dice, we do have our own dice that just came in. They are beautiful. It's not really gonna show very well, but we can put a link into the thing. We have full sets or just one D20. And the great thing with the dice are they are not for profit. What they are, if you get a dice, you provide a mental health kit for somebody. So all of the proceeds that go into it go right into our mental health kit program. And you, by buying even just one D20, you provide a mental health kit for somebody. So you get something and you give something at the same time. It's a great thing. And then also starting in the next 2 weeks or so, I got to finish wrapping up a few things, but our mental health kits are now going international, which is so fantastic. I'm so happy for this and so excited. So all of our friends and community members and anybody that might be interested in getting some more resources and sensory items and one of our mental health kits, feel free to request one on our website. You'll find links there, and you'll find links at the bottom in our bio while listening to this podcast. Request a mental health kit, and if you live in the UK, EU, Canada, your kit will be sent out very shortly.
That's awesome.
Yes, they're fantastic. Yep, and that's all I got. And thank you so much, Doc, so much for coming on and chatting with us. It was such a great conversation. I can't thank you enough.
Yes.
Thank you.
I can check it off my bucket list now. If I saw you in a convention before we were able to talk like this, I probably would have been like that shy guy in the corner, like kind of like pretending to be busy because I'm too nervous to say hi to you. But,
you shy?
I know. Yeah.
That's how I am. Like I got a chance to meet Matt Colville at a convention, but like we finished up and I was with Dr. Kelly and I was like, I was just very like, that was so cool. And he was like, did you even tell him your name? I was like,
I forgot. No, I'm just very happy that I got to nerd out both on psychology with you, but also as far as like D&D and stuff like that goes. I thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation, and please feel free to come back. We can do this all over again.
I'd be happy to.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
All righty.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight. Have a great night.
Good night.
Is there anybody streaming right now we can go host?
Do we have an ambassador on?
Actually, you know what? I see we do not, but I see Dr. Mick on. So we're gonna raid Dr. Mick.
Sounds good.
If I can type.
Yes, do raid this time, not
Raid?
All right, don't ya?
My community manager had to just point out to me that there is a button that says raid.
Is there?
Yes.
Where?
On the streamer page. Like, so if you're on the edit stream info page, to the right in the middle, there's a button that says raid.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This is gonna break Joe.
Creator dashboard. I do everything through the OBS.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, there is.
Yeah. Great. They point that out to me. I'm like,
Thanks, Doc.
yep, I'm an idiot now. So no, so like I got a point.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
There you go.
I love it. All right. Hang out, everybody, for just a few more minutes. Say hi to Dr. Mick with us, and have a great night.
Yeah. Be well, guys.